Alright, so we're going to do the lesson on Shote again. I've been meaning to redo this because the first recording came out with a sound quality that wasn't so great. So we're going to do this again. We're going to play Shote. This is the music for it here. Shote, first hand, which means the first piece, the first Honkyoku piece for Hitoyogiri, or even the first technique. It gives you some basic techniques. And it's basically a meditation on the tone E, right? This kind of tone keeps repeating itself through it, and we're kind of playing around with that, right? It's a tone color melody. So we play it, maybe not so much vibrato. You can put a little bit of that in there if you want, but if you do too much, these kind of subtle techniques that we're doing are going to be sort of erased or blurred out. So you don't want to put too much vibrato in it, just that nice, clear, straight tone, kind of a light tone. We're going to play Netori, Shirabe, and Shote, and then we'll explain some of the techniques that happen in it. Okay, so that's Shote. The first phrase, we'll go through it phrase by phrase. You've got e-ue, fu-e. E-ue, that's no problem, right? Then you've got fu-e. That fu, okay, it's a little bit difficult to interpret. Maybe you can hear the children returning from elementary school outside. We live on a road where the kids walk by, so you can hear their voices sometimes, and they always talk about the weird guy living here. Anyway, they don't know that I can hear them, but that's funny, I think. E-ue, fu-e. Fu, it is said in these manuals, has two types, okay? One is the tone, and another means hit, right? One manual says fu means hit, and it distinguishes it actually uses a different character, to, for when you use the lower tone as a tone itself rather than as a hitting effect. There's one thing where I really can't decide just how to interpret it, right? one explanation says Tsutsune ni hairite utsu, right? So you kind of make the pipe sound of the shakuhachi, the lowest tone, and then you hit. Or maybe it's kind of a little bit of an awkward wording, but it just means to hit, making that sound. According to another explanation, again, you don't want the sound to break up. You have to hit all the fingers at once. So it's very clear that it at least means this. Right? You make that sound a little bit, but it's just a hit, and you hit everything at once. The other thing that one of the books adds is that in Sojo you hit 4, and in Banshiki you hit 5. Alright, in those two modes, ya, fu, ya, this kind of pattern is very common, so I think it must be talking about that. For the Sojo mode, okay, that makes sense. That's hitting the e hole. But in the back, hitting the back for Banshiki doesn't really make sense to me, so I'm not 100% certain just what they're talking about. One more interpretation would be that after you hit, you kind of repeat with one of those fingers, right? It makes sort of a bubbling sound, which I liked for a while, but right now I'm leaning towards just playing e, fu, e like this. So I'll keep you up to date if I come across anything else that kind of enlightens me on how that's supposed to be played, but for now that's basically my best guess, one of those two ways. So as you're playing it, feel it with your body and see what you naturally kind of want to do as you start to get used to the piece. I think that's a good way to discover what these old techniques are about, is just to rediscover them, find something that you want to do naturally. So, e-u, e, fu, e. The next phrase, ta, e, fu, e, and then you have 3 lines there. They look sort of like a nyashi if you're, or a kamuri if you're used to modern shakuhachi notation. In lots of different schools they use that. Sometimes it's actually written more clearly as the he character, which is what it is here. And that's because it's the e sound, e and he have the same vowel sound with them. So they refer to the same note. And it's just kind of a light rising of the tone. Right? You start a little bit lower and raise it up just lightly. In the spring you do it kind of with a flower blooming energy. In the summer everything's already in full blossom, so it's kind of a quick effect. In the winter maybe you slow it down a bit. In the autumn maybe it's a little rougher. So it changes for the seasons. In the summer mode where we are now, it's a little bit quicker maybe. It's called yuri okoshi, by the way, which means a kind of rising vibrato. But it's not, again, when you read the explanation, it's very clearly not a vibrato like this. It's just a very subtle effect. Okay, so we'll play ta, e, fu, e, he, he, he. And then we've got the little circle, that's a period. You can take a breath, make sure your shoulders aren't getting too tense or your hands aren't holding it too tight. And we'll go to the next phrase, he, he, fu, e, e-u, e. He, e, fu, e, u. Remember, he is played with all the holes open. You bring that up to the high B-ish note. Ho, u, ru, ho. I'll explain the ru. Did you see that ru? U, ru, ho again. That's ru. What you're doing is we're moving from u to ho, and we've got ru in between. So from u, when you move to ru, ru is with holes 1 and 3 open. Instead of just switching fingers like this, you purposefully bring this finger down and then lift this finger up. And that effect is called a mawari, right? Mawaru tokoro. It's a turn. The kind of note goes down and it pops up and gives you a little bit of a tone color effect there. The ru is the same pitch as e in this case. In old scores, ru turn actually corresponds to two different effects, and it depends on the context what they mean. But we'll deal with that a little bit later. Here, I'm relatively sure that it's a mawari. Ho u ru ho again. Next you've got e u u. The second, that little dot after the u is just a repeat. It means to repeat the previous fingering, which is u. And we do that with the fourth hole. Then ta f u e. Ta u ru ho. And the last character there is tsutsu, meaning tsutsune. You close all the holes and make that tone. So there it is, Shote. Alright, we're going to play it one more time for you on the Oshiki Hitoyogiri. This one is roughly a B plus or minus. And it's a little bit of a higher tone, so if you have a Oshiki Hitoyogiri, you can play along with this one. There you go. Alright, so again, these pieces I think are meant to be played straightforward with a light breath. And just a straight breath with no real decorations, because these subtle decorations get very interesting as you get used to the song. Just let your creativity flow into those. Well, and especially in this note, the sound, right? You kind of focus on that as you're playing. And your personality comes out in it as you play it more and more. And it's good to play it outside, right? So have fun with it. Talk to me in the comments if you have any questions about it or anything like that, or any comments, senses in terms of where you think certain techniques are going. And I'll see you next time.